1. You are now live on Channel 8 and YouTube.
Good evening. Welcome to the advisory committee meeting, March this April 7th, 6:30. The Temple Advisory Committee regular business meeting is being broadcasted live on TCTV Channel 8 and TCTV YouTube channel. Response will be made to comments in the TCTV YouTube channel as time permits. The agenda and meeting material for this business meeting were posted to www.mytowngovernment.org no later than 48 hours prior to the scheduled meeting, in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts open meeting law. The chairperson reserves the right to add items or to remove items from the form to change the order of the agenda. However, the agenda is posted in advance to give the committee and the public time to review any agenda item and to ensure the meeting runs within the allotted time frame. Again, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Due to obviously unforeseen circumstances over the last few weeks, we've scheduled meetings and we had to cancel. So obviously the committee apologizes for that. We now have a quorum tonight, which is great. And we're going to start moving forward some regular business. Review and approval of minutes, February 23rd, February 24th, and March 12th. Everybody get a chance to take a look at those? Excellent.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just two corrections on the minutes of the 23rd. Mr. Francis's name carried through a few times incorrectly, so I would just move to amend if you so choose on that. And then for the minutes of February 24th, I forgot to add at the end the list of documents to clarify within the minutes. So I would just move to amend that as well on just those two sets of minutes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for February 23rd. Obviously with the amended notes of Mr. Francis's name being spelled wrong to be corrected.
Second.
Yeah, motion second, any discussion? I see none. Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Well,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Meeting minutes of February 24th, 2022. Obviously with the amended list at the bottom, list of documents that we put at the end of that. That meeting minutes document.
I would make a motion to accept that.
With that amended, with the amendment.
Yes.
Can I have a motion to go second? Second. A motion second. Any other discussion? I see none. Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Cam? Yes. Paul?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Meeting minutes for March 12th, 2022. Motion to approve. I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Cam? Yes. Paul?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Justice, you're taking the notes, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain any public comments. Is there any public comments? If we get anything on YouTube, can you guys see that?
Yes.
If there's any YouTube comments, can you just let me know?
Yeah.
Thank you. I see no public comments. Moving on. Correspondence. February 2022, the budget versus actual. The accountant sent that document. That can March. Ever get a chance to look at that? And I'll see if we have questions. Obviously, Mr. Lamontagne couldn't be here tonight. He had a prior engagement. So any notes that we can take, that we can give to Mr. Graves, he will put forth to Mr. Lamontagne so he can get it to us as soon as possible. So does anybody have any questions about the February budget versus actual?
Yeah, question for Justice,
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Justice, do we know what the snow and ice is for the current year? I mean, how much over we are?
I
Ballpark.
am not sure. I don't even have a ballpark number on that. I can ask though, and I can get you that.
I do have an idea what that is.
Yep.
It's going to be well over 100,000.
Okay.
That's from a conversation I had with Mr. Sosa.
Which is not uncommon, depending on the winter.
I think the only other question I have is, I noticed the document that there's still the $50,000 in the advisory account
Yes.
fund, and perhaps we should ask Adam if he has any plans to expend that, whether it be towards the snow and ice deficit or some other use.
Right. Well, the end of the year comes in June, so typically if they have a forecasted plan, also they'll present it to us, obviously for us to approve or disapprove, depending on what the need is. But I'm sure that he's gonna come up with a plan, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that entire 50,000 will be utilized.
Well, I think there's other couple, I think Veteran Services had is probably gonna need some funds as well. Looking at the document here, potentially. I mean, again, there's still, June's the end of the year, so I mean, we're in April, so we got 60 days left, so plus or minus. Okay, so I can take a motion to,
I do have one other
Yeah,
item,
sure.
Mr. Chair. There's a section on page 4, Baldwinville School Caretaking.
page 4. Yes,
It's a $7,500
Yes.
figure, and just $205 has been expended.
Yes.
I was just curious if we could ask of Adam, whether that money will be expended between now and the end of the fiscal year.
did he get that, Justice?
Yep, I have that question.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions about the budget versus action for February? I'd like to take a motion for accept.
I don't think we need to take a motion, Mr. Chair. It's just correspondence.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, we typically would just even accept it as written.
I'll make a motion to accept as written.
Excellent, thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. Mr. Francis,
Yes.
Ken? Paul?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, opens the January budget versus actual. Ever get a chance to look at the January one?
Motion to approve as written
Well,
or accept as written.
okay,
I would second
a
that.
motion is second. Any other discussion? Justice, I have a couple a couple questions, I guess. Under police supplies, they're already at 95.83% of usage, and there's about 60+ days left. So I don't know if they have I mean, obviously, I know the chief's doing well, and he's doing what he needs to do. I just want to make sure that we're all in the same place. The same goes for buildings and grounds. They're at 99% usage for supplies.
Okay. All right, I can
And-
bring up your concerns. I'm writing that
And
down.
veterans, sure, and veteran services, purchase and services, around 100% already with usage. I mean, that's my only concerns. I mean, there's 60 days left. I just want to make sure that there's dollars available. Or if there's, if there's an issue. I mean, I'm sure that they're tracking. I mean, he is the well, at least Mr. Valentine is that individual to make sure that's going in the right direction.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? I have a motion in a second. No more discussion, great. Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And thanks for taking those questions down.
Mhm.
Okay, the community comparison, obviously at I think the budget meeting, which I had to leave, I apologize, I had a family care issue. This was put forth. I mean, there's been some concern within the community that some of the numbers are not correct. Can you explain how you got these numbers? Because, and I verified them as well, but I want to hear from you.
Yeah, they just,
Okay.
whatever DLS provides, you can go on their website. It's Mass DLS, Department of Local Services. They provide all this information for 350 plus communities. So I have an Excel sheet. I downloaded all the information. I can provide the Excel sheet to whoever wants to see it. And it's just put in the columns and formatted. So it's, I'm not sure what the concern is. I mean, there might be an issue or there might be an error, depending. It might be an Excel issue. But I don't know what the concern is. So if you want to forward them to me, we can check that out and verify. But yeah, the data is whatever DLS provided.
Understood. And I actually went on today. I didn't do all of them. I looked at ours, Templeton's,
Mhm.
and I looked at Lancaster. Just to verify the numbers were correct. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page, because if there is a mistake, because we are human beings and we do make mistakes.
Yeah, is that the correct one? Let me see. What you're looking at. Yeah, because this one actually does look different from the one I have. Yeah. So this wouldn't be the one that's attached into the advisory committee meeting. So I can just take a look at Templeton, see it's the 8101 and we have 8149.
That's right.
So,
Okay.
so there is a difference with whatever version you're looking at, but the official version, and justice for your knowledge, the one that is attached in the agenda packet is the correct one.
Excellent. Okay.
I believe the selectmen already March 12th accepted that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, I entertain a motion to accept and as presented. And for the chair to sign. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion second. Any other discussion? I see none. Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Yes. Paul?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Justin, do you know if Mr. Curry signed that document already?
He already signed it. I have it in my drawer in the office. So next time you're available, we can have that signed.
Great, thank you so much. And thanks for all your work too. I know.
It doesn't take long to do it, so. No, it's part of my job. That's what I do for a living, is Excel spreadsheets, so
I appreciate that. So I know where I'm gonna be going for. That's
I'll have to charge you.
All right, now we're going into new business, the pre-annual town meeting and the schedule. Obviously, there's a lot of things within the bylaw that we have to comply with. With the days, there's 35 days that we have to look at. So as long as we get the warrant within 35 days. I can't tell you that the warrant was approved by the Board of Selectmen. This is your copy of the warrants. Top page is just the, excuse me, it's just the general fund document expense budget, so that's like for each department. But obviously, that's just for your budget book, but then the annual town meeting is behind it, and the town meeting warrants behind it. Okay. So now you have it, you guys can review that, but we need to look at the calendar, so obviously, we have to get things into the newspaper like immediately. So working with the Garden News, and obviously, and it usually takes about 4 days from when I send it to them to put it in the newspaper. And based on the calendar, pre-town meeting, I like to have it, hold it if possible on April 28th. I'll get a motion for that, if that's okay. So we can hold the pre-town meeting on April 28th, 2022 at 6:30 in this room.
You need a motion, Mr. Chair.
I do.
I will move.
Second.
Okay, excellent. I have a motion second. Any other discussion? I see none. Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes. Paul.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So as it stands right now, so pre-town meeting is going to be April 28th, 2022 at 6:30. And I'll make sure that that gets into the newspaper. And obviously, we will be billed for that. And hopefully, this will be the last time, hopefully, that change to the bylaw takes effect at May 11th. But again, even though it takes effect May 11th, it doesn't, because that's come back from the Attorney General's office approved before they can go into effect. So we'll be still working by the same standards. We did receive the warrant. Actually, today is the 7th. So it's supposed to be by April 10th. So we're actually a few days early, which is great. Thank you for the work of the Board of Selectmen to getting us that so we can have some review. The town meeting is May 11th at 6:30 at the Narragansett Middle School, just so everybody's aware. And obviously, we need to have our recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. I believe the bylaw says 5 days, right, correct? Is it 5 days?
5 days for an annual. Yep.
5 days for an annual, that's right. So within 5 days. So hopefully, if we go on the April 28th, we can make our motions and either approve or agree or not agree on April 28th. We should be able to get those hopefully within the next couple of days. So be way before the 5th day. Which would be good. Any questions with pre-town meeting, the pre-town meeting? Nothing. Oh, you got it?
No questions.
Nothing. Yes, sir. We do have a committee interest form that was submitted to the select board office to become a member of the advisory committee. Mr. Euvrard. Yeah. You want to the hot seat with the mic is? back, I think it was 31 March, Mr. Euvrard applied for interest into the advisory committee, which is very admirable and honorable. I appreciate your interest. Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Fiscally and financially, I was working at Courier Westford. It was a printing corporation. My last 5 years there, I was in the training division. The last 3 years, I was the associate director of training, and I handled a training budget of about $250,000. I left that job in 2002, went back on active duty, and I did that for the next 17 years. Retired in 2017, and majority of my time in the Army here in Massachusetts was operations and logistics. While I was in logistics, I managed a property book, associate manager of a property book that was somewhere in the vicinity of $42 million. And my budget was right around 12 to 15,000 annually. So I do have some fiscal
Yeah.
and financial knowledge,
Excellent.
especially in the budgeting process. And now now I'm retired, I work with a friend of mine. I've gone back to printing, and I refurbish and repair small printing presses on a business out of Auburn, Mass.
Oh, fascinating.
Full circle.
Right. Excellent. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Euvrard?
Are you sure you want to join the advisory committee?
Cameron, I've never, Cameron, you're never sure in anything in life. You ought to know that.
That's true.
Yeah, bleep that out.
I remember someone said, "Are you sure you want to go on active duty?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'm sure." And then 13 months later, I was in Iraq. So
Yeah.
yeah, be careful what you ask for.
I think I felt the same.
Yeah, you were right behind me.
I was, yeah, definitely. Yeah, but they had to carry me out though. It's terrible. All right, so no other questions? I'll entertain a motion to appoint Mr. Euvrard to the advisory committee,
So
not to exceed the annual town meeting, which is May 11th.
So move.
Motion of second.
Second.
Do I have any other discussion? See none, Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Mr. Francis?
Paul?
Yes. And I vote yes as well. What you need to do now is I need to get sworn in. So, and there's some paperwork that you need to fill out, and then there's the ethics that you have to take. Yeah, great class. It's really, it's informative.
Taken that many times.
Yeah, same. But that's all you need to do. That's all. And and you're welcome to stay. Obviously, you can't be a voting member because you haven't been sworn in yet, but you're welcome to stay. If not, we can see you at the next meeting.
All right.
All right.
Be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome aboard. I can't believe that's that other item. Oh, yeah. Excellent. Next on the agenda is to discuss the meeting that we had with the select board on the finances. Obviously, Paul, you were here for a while, right? You here? No, you weren't here. You were sick, right? You were here,
Yes,
and you were here. I had to leave at 11:30, I believe. And I did look at the notes and I did watch YouTube, so I did see some of the stuff. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, I know, again, any questions that we have, we can deliberate and discuss here, and we can bring forward to the select board if there's any discussion. And Cam, you already looking at stuff.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm just, because we just got the warrant, so
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is approved. I'm just looking at what the changes were.
Understood. Just, there's been no updates, correct? On the budget book,
Looks like there has been.
To the
other than what we received
To the-
already.
no, I don't think there have been other than what you've seen already.
from what my budget book has here. Select board has changed by about, I don't know, call it 5,000,
Wait a
6,000.
minute. Oh, no, wait a minute. So there were a few changes. I know that since that budget meeting, the assistant town administrator's position went from being salaried back down to hourly. I believe $1,000 more was put into snow and ice, and I'm trying to think what else may have changed. Those are the two off the top of my head. I believe we put a little bit more into highway. I can't tell if that was a part of it.
Yeah, highway received some funds. They received about 5,000 as well.
Yeah,
Snow and ice got an extra 100 or 1,000.
Yeah.
Library received an extra 1,000 roughly. And this looks like I'm not sure where this money's coming from. Oh, it's wound down.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah,
God.
9945, 395.
I don't see how that math adds up though, because I'm counting. So library went up 1,000 from the budget book.
Yep.
Selectmen was wound down, looks like 6,000.
Yeah.
4, 905, 96. Highway went up at 5,000.
Yep.
Snow and ice went up that 1,000. And then your library went up 1,000.
Yep.
And I don't see, oh, there's a down tick.
Which one?
Insurance and benefits looks like it was adjusted down by 861.
So that went from 2637, 2638.
But assuming I did my math right, it looks like we're over by what, $139 as to what was removed. So how does the math stay the same? Nope, I see it. Library is not 1,000. All right, yep, that works for me.
You good?
Yep.
There's no question on that, Justice. We're solid. And that adds up at the end. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah. Said it before, but I'll say it again.
Yes.
I still think what we're doing with the ambulance receipts isn't right.
Okay.
I don't agree with unallocating the costs over to what is truly for the ambulance.
Right.
We started an enterprise fund and you're essentially taking some of those monies and making it match, or taking the costs from what is fire and EMS to make it match what the ambulance receipts are, but I think you're understating it.
In a different account,
Right.
because they're moving out of the general fund and making its own account. I know there's some residents had some concerns with that as well.
I think the money's that will be generated by the ambulance receipts. In just a sidebar conversation from Adam, I mean, we're expecting that there would be a windfall, and I know Mr. Bennett had said that he's expecting, you know, some of the monies to be able to be used to buy a new ambulance, so on and so forth. But I look at this budget and I question keeping it flat with inflation at the, 10% mark, say it averages out over the year, or inflated by 5-6%. Keeping a flat budget, you've technically lost 6% of your money, right? By costs going up 6%, keeping the budget flat. I question the allocations of some of these monies, right? And the value that we receive from them versus, the costs.
Well, it kind of pigeonholes them too, so because they won't be able to utilize, because again, specifically used for ambulance. So how do you dictate time? So if they're a firefighter, paramedic, and they're on the ambulance, but they did 3 firefighter calls, but they did 5 ambulance calls, how do you break up that salary? The utilization of those
Well,
funds?
you do an allocation, right? So
Yeah.
you technically, easiest way I can explain it is if you have an HR department or a finance, right? I work finance for a corporation. My time isn't spent, if I work for, say, Walmart, right? Walmart has logistics, they have sales, they have all these sort of things. And when I'm doing finance, it's not dedicated to one particular thing, and I don't break my time out that way.
Right.
So what they do is they say, well, 20% of the business is for clothing, 30% is for, appliances, and they'll allocate my costs down on pools and rules. That's what they call it. My costs are pools. Allocate them as rules as to what they decide would be the percentage to allocate down. And that's what you do. So for the fire department, for an intercompany or an intergovernmental allocation, it would be 30% of the time that they're firefighters, right? And 60% of the time or 70% of the time they're on the ambulance, right? That's something that they can dictate the rules however they see fit, but you should be splitting up their costs proportionally,
My point,
right?
that's my point, exactly.
Because they, the firefighters are paramedics and they're firefighters, and they can do either or. So by not putting any employees in the ambulance receipt fund, you're essentially just saying that we make money from ambulance, receipts with very limited cost, which isn't true.
Right.
And I think the intent is that we want to track the ambulance receipts and pay for ambulance related things out of the ambulance receipts. But,
Right.
I think Dave Dickey was talking about how he needs more headcount, right? And he wants to bring the ambulance service to a full 24 hours, to generate more ambulance receipts instead of passing them on.
Right.
So by limiting the budget that we have at the 10 million, we'll call it, flat year over year, and also hiding some of the ambulance receipts, and I'll use the term hiding because you're expecting higher ambulance receipts next year. So what they budgeted for ambulance receipts this year, with the costs that are there, you're technically not taking the full cost from the fire, bringing it to the ambulance receipts, running that into what would look like a deficit against what we have for the ambulance receipts, and taking the money, for headcount or whatever it is, and leaving it into this budget.
Right.
Personally, I look at it and I don't think the ambulance receipt number is accurate. I think it is going to be higher. Most likely it will be higher.
It's at 270, right?
There will be a cash windfall in the account. So why wouldn't we plan for a deficit in that, right? By saying whatever their ambulance receipts are, allocating the head count down, and now you've freed up some money in your operating budget to go to things like the roads, right? And as somebody who doesn't utilize the school system here, hopefully I don't have the police at my house every day, and I don't have the fire, but they're there if you need it. My number one priority, roads, right? And I think if we can see clearly on here that the highway department has requested in a large budget to what they received. And I think when we heard the DPW, is he a director or superintendent?
A director.
He stated the obvious. We need a lot of money to fix these roads.
Right.
And I think that's my biggest take. But granted, you can look at other things here like recreation and culture. I mean, they have $7,000. I think we're giving them $5,000. An extra $2,500 stretches a long way, right? And so even taking 2 headcount from what you have for fire and EMS and allocating it into the ambulance receipts, you freed up, I don't know, we'll call it 100 grand, 80 grand.
Right. Right.
And that's something you can spread down and allocate over. But I'm not sure what the long-term strategy is. I'm sure they've discussed what their long-term strategy, but to me on paper, this budget does not make sense to me. I think it's something that they're hoping for next year. They'll have a large cash windfall and they can play with capital expenditures. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
We all know, John, I think you too as well. I mean, it's a public game, right? So you're trying to do what you can
Right.
to avoid the questions but I'm questioning it now. I'm just looking at the numbers.
Right, and no, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
A couple of observations about the budget. Is I believe very strongly that, stabilization surplus funds, it should be 10%. So Adam's been trying to get to that 10% figure. But it also appears that to get to that figure, is that there is a sacrifice on the repairing of roads. So if you're on a 15-year schedule with the 80 miles of roads that the town has to maintain, you're probably looking at $2.5 to $3 million every year that has to be spent on the road. So it appears that what Adam has done is, put the amounts in the stabilization account rather than applying it towards the roads. It's a choice. It's a choice. I think that the issue with the roads, it's not going to go away. It's going to get worse and worse. So you either appropriate more money at town meeting, or maybe you have some kind of a bond program, which I think the idea of that, but other towns have done that. They've had like a 10-year program to try to fix at least a portion of the roads, and it appears to be the direction we might be getting into. So there's that choice, stabilization fund, versus road that I see. The other observation is on the senior budget is it appears that there are reimbursements from Mark.
Yes.
And it also appears in reading it that that the reimbursements from Mark, they don't appear to be separated out. And my point is that if you separated that out, and if you look at what is actually provided for the senior services, it's really a very low dollar amount for a town this size. And I did bring that up.
And what do they say at the budget meeting?
Well, I told them at that time, and I looked at it and I felt, they needed another $75,000. And that's, given the state of things, is an unrealistic request, but I think that they certainly could use $25,000. They just need a little bit more money.
Right.
And it really is the one area of the town budget that I saw where the dollars spent for people that you really need some more dollars. So
You mean the salaries?
the salaries, the number of positions,
Right.
there appears to be a need. There appears to be a lot of people coming in. There's a lot of poor people in town. They need government assistance, and they go to our senior center for apply for SNAP, but it takes somebody to listen to that person and take the application. It takes time. This doesn't seem to be
Right.
It seems to be, as I pointed out before, it seems to be a gap between what we budget and then what the actual need is.
Yeah, it comes down to, everybody wants money, I think, at the end of the day, right? And so even if we were fully funded to what everybody wanted, I think they'd come back next year with more money requests, right? That's the unfortunate nature of it.
Yes.
But I think also, I'd like to make one more point, is this really bothers me. It's, that back in 2008, the state cut unrestricted local aid by 15%. And so from 2008 to 2019, the state chipped away at 1.5% a year. So finally in 2019, the unrestricted local aid was the same as it was in 2008.
That's right.
But just at a very conservative rate of inflation of 3%, you're talking about 25–30%. Those dollars are worth 25 to 30% less.
Right.
And it's just I think if we went to the state, they'd say, "Oh, we got all sorts of requests and all sorts of people asking for money. Be lucky you got a 1.5% increase." But when you point out is I think we need to make the point to the state that we're really at where we were in 2008, and we need to be somewhere between 2008 and 2022.
Right,
It was really starting to hurt the town.
right. No, without a
I
doubt.
think that's every community out there, right? I think a lot of Massachusetts itself is hurting, and I think that's because Boston continues to take more and more for itself, you know, in terms of public transportation, housing developments, things like that. And the unfortunate reality is they step on everybody outside the 495 belt. Most of the time, it's outside the 95 belt, but 495 belt seems to not reap any of the benefits of what Boston spends or Massachusetts state government spends on anything inside that area.
I guess my point is if we just move the needle a little bit, you know, it would make a big difference. And,
Well, I mean, state legislation, state legislators are the other ones that, you know, hopefully we can push them a little bit to move that needle. Because that's who needs to do it. Unfortunately, because again, 195 belt out where we are. I mean, even with, I mean, we talk about the senior stuff and you talk about school and transportation, which is a whole other animal. Where they were gonna, you know, fully fund transportation based on appropriations. And they only appropriate to 60 to 70%. So people don't realize that another 30%, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in Templeton. So that's huge for us. I know they did go up a lot this year, which I appreciate if you look at the numbers. You know, with chapter 7 and stuff like that on the school side. But the people side, you're right. I mean, you know, a large percentage of our budget is salaries. I mean, you take the debt out, you take, you know, benefits out, you take the insurance out, you know, you take all that out and you're left with X. And, you know, what probably 80% of that is salaries. And quite frankly, we don't pay our people very well here. It's just a fact. I mean, it's not, it's just a fact. I mean, I can't tell you that there are certain people that certain department heads are doing well, and others aren't. I mean, others are the lowest paid department of that department in around us. You know, I know they did this, they did a study. I'm waiting, I haven't seen it yet. A salary-based study based on, I think, was it 100-mile radius? Justice?
I'm not sure because I wasn't around when we started that, but I believe it was some of the nearby towns.
Can you do me a favor? Can you make sure that that's sent out? I know it's been completed, correct?
Yes, it has been completed. I will, I'll talk to the town administrator. I'll get that sent out to you guys.
Thank you. I think for all of us to look at that, I think that would give us a better snapshot to say, okay, cool. You know, maybe these positions are, you know, we need to look at these in the future and maybe do some hard recommendation to the select board based on the financial need that's out there.
I think Cameron's right. I think what was done was, you know, the budget makes sense if it's looked upon as a way to generate, you know, a lot more free cash for the following year.
Right.
Makes sense from that aspect.
Well, because there's a lot of variables. The levy limits are variable. The amount of money that we have coming in is a variable. The tax rate increase or decrease is a variable. I mean, it's all these different variables. And you're trying to match them all up to satisfy the need of, you know, all these departments. And
Very tough to do.
it's very hard. I mean, it's very challenging for, you know, for the department has to make sure that their budgets are on track and, you know, and for the first time being level funded this year. But I mean, like I said before, I go either way on the ambulance receipts.
I think it's a good idea, but it needs to be executed properly.
Right, and I see what you're saying. 'Cause for instance, like if they put $270,000 of ambulance receipts. But we know that they're forecasting, you know, say 350,000. So, you know, we know they're gonna make an additional 107, you know, $100,000+ over what they're supposed to be, what they're projecting to use. So that money's gonna go back to the ambulance receipts pool and just stay there. And then the next year, they're gonna probably do the same thing. And then they'll have another windfall, say $200,000 over. So now they have, that goes back in. So now they have 200 plus $300,000 in there. So you look at that over the course of a 5 or 10 year period. And yeah, at that period, then you can go buy an ambulance. You know what I mean? After 5 years, you'll have enough money in there. I can see how they're trying to war game that. But I think the execution has to be done, to the ability where people can see, where the money is. So the taxpayers can see where the money is, because I'm sure some taxpayers, they look at this and, they, I think the term is shell game, I think was used. And to a certain degree, I mean, he's a little right, because it's a shell game. You're moving the shells around just to hopefully satisfy the need of different budget responsibilities. But at the end of the day, as long as it's done correctly on either side, if they keep it in the general fund or they separate it, but the utilization has to be utilized for that department, for the ambulance.
I mean, an equivalent too would be that if is light and water department, right? All their employees were at the light department, and the employees for the light department also service water. And they just didn't put any of the costs of any of their men in the water department, and they just built the pool to, I mean, it's an enterprise fund, so
Right.
a little differently, but if they were held to the same standards as what we're held to, it would be, well, they would have so much money to replace all the pipes.
Right.
And then what they could do is they could flip it the other way, which is, all right, well, let's put them all in the water department now. And then we'll just build a pool with whatever we're making receipts off electricity. And then, it's reflecting the true cost is the most important thing, I think, in a budget, right? You're going to be wrong in the budget period. Things are going to come in, things are going to come down close to whatever. It's like snow and ice. But at the end of the day, you want to reflect the true cost that you're expecting for each respective area. So if the ambulance receipts is going to run in deficit because they're allocating the proper amount of cost to it, that needs to be known, right? And I think at this point, they're not showing it. I don't think it would run in deficit if they were to allocate the cost down, but again, now you have to ask the question, why would they do it that way?
Well, it's kind of like new growth. What I mean, they've been putting $60,000 in new growth for how long? I think they just went up to, I think 70 this year, 2023. I think they went to 70 for new growth. But if you looked at the number for new growth that was even last year, I mean, it was significantly higher in the 200,000 plus range. So, definitely surpassed the $70,000 threshold anyways, but again, being conservative is great. I think conservative and knowing where every dollar is, I think is important for the people to know, moving forward. Anyone else have anything else with the budget book? Or anything else? Any other discussion with that?
Yeah, do we want to make any recommendations or think of anything or action items that we want to take when we circle back again? Because we're going to have to approve the warrant as is, but not approve it as is, but we'll have to make recommendations to the warrant articles. So is there anything we want to target on what we're submitting for an operating budget for the warrant article? Or we just let sleeping dogs lie here?
Well, I never want sleeping dogs to lie, because I mean, that doesn't work for me. I mean, definitely if there's action items that need to take place and anybody's not feeling comfortable with something, that something needs answers to, then we need to talk about that. And then we need to bring that forward to Adam to give us answers to why certain things are out this way.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to request him for the next meeting as to why he's doing the ambulance receipts the way he is,
Okay.
what's his long-term strategy? I mean, that if he can come up with a long-term strategy that makes sense at that point, I can feel comfortable about it.
Okay.
But just, I don't know, short-term, it really doesn't make sense to me.
Understood.
I think the rationale I had received from him was it was the first year we're doing it, which doesn't excuse not doing it properly.
Okay. Well, I will definitely get the next meeting we have is the 28th, which is the pre-town meeting. So because again, if you don't agree, so you can exercise your right to say, no, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
We can go forward with that. But again, if that's just look into that a little more to divulge yourself.
Yeah, I'd like to go 12.
Absolutely.
Be ready.
Okay. Okay, great. I'll Justice, action item for the annual receipts, long-term strategy for the town of why they want to do what they're doing.
Yep, I already have that question down.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Justin.
Okay, any other discussion?
What's on what's on the agenda? What can we talk about here? I just want to make sure. Um, So we're gonna, for town meeting, the annual town meeting, we're gonna discuss this warrant article stuff.
We will vote on each article. We do have some correspondence from Massachusetts Regional Vocational School District. This is dated March 7th, 2022, signed by Mr. LeBlanc. The district's assessment of 603,535, which we knew from the budget book, but now we just have it. They actually sent it to us in writing. We also got the same thing from the Narragansett Regional School District, obviously the number from January 10th, which was 7,143,837. Then on March 3rd, we got a second one signed by Ms. Charlie and the treasurer at 7,322,433, which has also been the updated book as well. And I'll have those on the next meeting to make a motion to vote them.
Yeesh, Colvin really got it in this. Colvin really got it. Colvin.
They sure did.
$300,000.
Yeah. Well, look at the amount of kids.
Look at Pittsburgh's amount of kids. They
I
have
know.
384. But wow. Good for them. I'm glad we went down 3,000.
Absolutely. Here's, that's one dated March 3rd, which is the current. This one was dated January 20th, which obviously it went up, as you can tell. Any other questions online? TCTV?
No.
No, okay, thank you.
Why is this? This is FY22 and FY23, and this is 21 and 20. Assuming this is a typo.
Must be a typo.
No, that's right. That's, yeah, this isn't it. That's just what was assessed last year.
March 3rd,
Yeah.
2022.
So unless there's something on the back. This is saying FY22, right? And if
Yeah.
I look at what we have here for FY22, these numbers.
They gave us the wrong one. It's 3/22/22.
Oh, actually, I think we just supposed to.
Yeah, they're flipped. No, they
I think they were just giving us a prelim of what FY22 was. and then-
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, our partners at school, they're really working with these select boards, so I gotta give them kudos. Justice, you also got the question with the mark, with the separation of funds with the senior center?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What happened with the Phillipston school? I know there was some stuff going on with that. Was that ever resolved? I know when they opened up the new Templeton Center School, there was some discussion about what was going on with the Phillipston school. But I don't have kids, so I don't follow.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I have a couple. So in the program, as it stands right now, as far as I know, it's closed. They're utilizing it for day programs and scouting and stuff like that. But as far as like the education, where kids go to school, I think it's been closed. I am on the rack, and we do have a meeting coming up in 2 weeks, I believe. We're trying to get that agreement narrowed down.
Okay.
I don't have any information more than that at this point. Once I get more information, I'll brief the committee on the discussions that we've been having. It's a lot of times if the Phillipston folks it's hard to get a quorum, or it's hard to get them to the table to have these discussions because they haven't been present. So, but I think for what we're doing, I think we're traveling through it. I've only been to one meeting, I think, so far, since I've been appointed on that committee. So as far as the advisory group, advisory committees, member on the rack. Okay. Okay. Any member comments? Paul, you got it? No comments. No comments. So, Kim?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. No. The only comment I'm going to say is just please look at the warrant. It's a major part of our role and responsibility here in the town. Thank you. I'll put these into the next meeting. We can vote those in. Okay, but that's all I have. And like I said, we always have positions open, so please, some more people can get involved in the community. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion second. Any other discussion? See none. Good job, everybody. No.
Yes.